Hello, and it's Di Downey. I'd love to introduce you to the Global Women's Voice online forum.
But I think it is honourable and fantastic for everyone to have a global perspective.
What is it that has intrigued you about Global Women's Voice?
Yes, well look, Di, your hashtag for years has been do what you love to do. So how does that fit with Global Women's Voice?
Well, for me, I recognise that I've always been fortunate enough for me to be able to be creative so that I have been able to facilitate myself to be able to do what I've loved to do for most of my life. And I realised travelling the world, speaking and mentoring women and people in business that we are actually all the same the world over. And the way that we are the same the world over, we all have values, we all have the same bodies, we all have a brain, we all want to be able to do good work. It doesn't matter who we are and it doesn't matter what culture. And so for me, it was like I started off experimenting with International Women's Day. I'll just give you a little bit of background. And we started off doing International Women's Day because for me that was already something that was happening. It was already out there. And so I did an online forum. I rang 5 friends up that I knew around the world and said, hey, can we jump on board and we talk about the theme for that year? We did that for 2 or 3 years. And then I decided, well, why don't we grow this out a little bit bigger? And so we did a global tour. And we spoke in different countries. We did TV interviews, radio interviews. And then the pandemic hit. And so at the beginning of 2020, we started the formal Global Women's Voice. And what has happened there is from those original 5 women that I called up, that a couple of them have dropped away, which is what happens with relationships, that their life takes over, they go in different directions. And now we have 6 core speakers, myself included, from all different parts of the world, which I know all of those people love what they do. And all of those people understand the concept of we are all the same the world over. And so that they can funnel their thoughts into, well, then I'm an expert in this field, and then how can we be talking from our expertise, but talking to varying subjects?
I love the collaboration.
My vision of being able to set up a safe place, but allowing all of us, and at times we introduce guest speakers, all of us to be able to speak from our expertise, but also to varying topics, which I think is a skill that we must have now. We must have that skill to be able to speak from our expertise, but to varying topics.
Wow, so your underlying purpose is really to give a voice.
Exactly, and a voice on many different levels. So let me explain that a little bit. As I just alluded to, it's about to be able to give women a space that's safe, that allows them to be vulnerable and tell their personal stories, because we are creating a space where people can actually be heard.
But we also have to go back to, Di, which I've brought up time and time again, this ability to listen deeply to what someone else is wanting and meet them at that moment.
People really want to be listened to. They want to be heard.
And that other people are really listening. And people are actually physically coming to the party with some real, meat of the topic. For instance, the last session that we just had, which was just yesterday, the day we're shooting here, that we spoke about how do we bridge the gap between conventional medicine and traditional medicine. And there were some very meaty strategies, takeaways that people could change their lives right now. So I thought it's a very simple and appropriate topic for people to be able to come in and listen and share, ask questions, but from a very global perspective.
Now, I really would like to congratulate you first for this sort of talk about this very important topic, sexuality.
You've been doing this a while. Were there any key moments where you felt, things that made you feel I have to keep going with this?
Well, I think it's like, you make a decision, and we make decisions based on our intentions. And we make decisions based on intentions from the experiences that we have had. So relating that to Global Women's Voice, there was a woman that, and this happens every time, every single conversation in Global Women's Voice, there is a part in that session where somebody shares something quite vulnerable and somebody takes away a big shift on some level. And I remember this particular series, this lady, she was not quite sobbing, but she had a very big realization that she had not been carving out time for herself, and that she wasn't putting in the simple strategies that all of us sort of talked about and bantered around and gave more distinctions, that she wasn't, because she hadn't carved out that time for herself, she was taking it out on her husband and on her staff. And so because of the space that we create and the relationships that we are creating in that cultural, global cultural environment, people are actually able to really listen and then be heard.
Going to be me despite all this, then that is what is called courage.
That's something pretty special.
Well, it's special, but I think also that one of the other underlying forces for me is that I've recognised that often people find it difficult to go global because they have difficulty in going and checking on the internet the exact time zone. So, for example, our Global Women's Voice is at 4:30 and it's at 11 a.m, alternating fortnights. And often people will say, well, I missed it. What happened? Did it not happen? And yet they get the replay. And so I go, well, actually in this country, in your town right now, or at that time, it was 6 o'clock in the morning. And for mine, at that time, it was 11 a.m. And they said, oh, I came on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And so the time zone, I think people to be able to work with time zones and understand them. But then there's the other aspect of people being able to understand the different cultures. And there's two aspects to that. One is the physiology of the culture, like the actual physical, people look different, they sound different, they dress different, they have different hairstyles. The culture is different. You see people through their culture, how we dress,
Yeah.
and then there's the other aspect of that, the accent. So the tonality of how people speak, how people listen. And I think the more I have done these sessions, the more I'm able to accept other people's differences and not always be coming from my perception. The core speakers often speak about this, is that their minds are opening up to other cultures without even knowing it. So there's that real tangible change, that evolution that is happening out of these forums, not to mention the skills and the strategies that we all share.
So it's nice to have that feeling that you're actually not alone.
I think when we listen to other people's stories, so much resonates. And this is where we recognize that we can all be from so many different parts of the world and have such different lives on the surface, but actually so many of us are connected in ways that we don't always recognize and going through similar.
You must have these kind of people in your life. What you thought about you take some effort to put it out there. Yeah, thank you.
So if someone hasn't even seen Global Women's Voice, how can they find it, or how can they get involved?
Well, underneath this video, there should be a link. And that link will take you to the registration page of the next session. And also there are always the replays. The replays, if you scroll down on the page of the link that's below this video,
right,
you can then see all the replays. And so we have had, at this point of shooting, we are into our 5th season. So in each season, there is 4 sessions. Each session goes from an hour to an hour and a half. And so really, there's a lot of topics that have been covered.
Yeah.
Not only from the core speakers, but also from guest speakers from all around the world. So it's a really genuine, safe with no agenda space that you can come in and start to get to know people around their expertise, but also start to get to know people as to who they really are, which I think is so important, because we're not there to sell anything. We're there to like share what our expertise is and to allow people to listen and grow.
Yeah, wow. Carve out some time and really, take a look.
Yeah.
Gosh, Di, thank you so much. Off I go.
Thank you very much, and I hope that I'll see you on a Global Women's Voice online forum soon. And click in and register, or go and watch a subject that interests you. Bye for now, and have a great day wherever you are on the planet.